morning, seculars, or afternoon or evening, whenever you're watching this. I am Sunny Secular, and this is season 2 of SecularMinority.com. Secular Minority is a podcast that gives a non religious, humanist perspective on life and the world around us. We prove that you can be happy after deconversion, and everyone is welcome, no matter the ethnicity, the orientation, or anything else like that. There's no shunning here. With that being said, let's get to our episode, shall we? Today's topic is, what exactly is a non? And today I want to introduce a guest of mine. I found her on social media. She has a reaction channel on YouTube. Her reaction channel, the name of the channel is Sunrayzz Section, and she goes by Sunrayzz 94. She does photography. She's a recent college graduate, and let's get to it. Sunrayzz, are you there?
Okay. Hi, how are you?
Hello, and thank you for joining me. You are my first guest for season 2.
Ooh, thank you for having me.
All right. Okay, so let's get right to it. You identified yourself as a non. We'll get into that in a minute. But for right now, let's just take it back. Give us a little information about yourself, some background, where you're from, and how did your journey lead you to being a non?
Okay. So like you said, I'm a recent college graduate. I've lived in the South for most of my life, and it's just the way that I've seen a lot of things go on. A lot of like religious people just around, a lot of non-religious people. And I've seen like a difference between how some of them like carry themselves and how others carry themselves as well. And from the research I've done, I've just decided to be a non because it's basically just indifference at like least it's an indifference about what's going on. Like, is there a God? Is there like a heaven and hell? It's just they're nons are mostly indifferent towards that kind of stuff.
Okay. All right. So, just in case our audience wants to know a little bit about you, give us some background information from, when you were a baby and growing up.
Okay. So when I was a kid, I wasn't really forced to be in any religion. It was mostly just a, you know, kind of secular, you would say. Um, I just decided to do my own research as I was growing up because I've heard a lot of different things about a lot of different religions, and I didn't want to just go based off of someone's word or go off of a book that was handed to me. Um, and when I got older, like into like high school and college, I took religion class, and the religions like Confucianism, Christianity, and a couple of other religions from like across the world. They've all had the same, pretty much the same mindset, like be good and you're gonna go to like a good place, and if you don't live the right way, you're gonna go to a bad place. Which I mean, you shouldn't force that onto people to tell them to be good. People should already have in their mind that to be a good person and to be a decent person to other people.
Okay. All right. So, just for the people who don't know, what exactly is your definition of a non, and how does that go into your life right now?
Okay. My definition is someone who just doesn't, who's not really into any kind of religion or just doesn't really care too much for it because they don't really see a point in it. Because I personally, in my day-to-day life, it doesn't make a difference to me. Like, I'm just a good person to anybody who wants to be good to me. And I'm just, I'm not good to specific people. I'm good to everybody.
Okay, all right. So that's a good policy to have. When people say, well, what's the difference between non and agnostic? What would you say?
Um, I would just say that basically, like, Gnostic, like, they still let it kind of get into their life. And but nons, they just, like I was saying before, they just don't. It's not really a part of their life. They don't really think about it.
Okay, so non would be short for non-believer.
Yeah, just a non-believer.
Okay, all right. Um, so you said that when you were in elementary school and things like that, you did research and stuff. At what age do you think you started your research? And were you in a Christian environment?
I wouldn't say like a Christian household environment. I'd say more like, since it was the South, there's a lot of Christianity around. Um, I think I started looking into everything at like maybe 12 or 13, and yeah, I just kind of got to this point now.
Okay, so when you were about 12 or 13, what kinds of things started the ball rolling?
Um, just the way stuff was portrayed on like the TV and the news and then the media, and the way people would just act towards other people. They'd be like, "Oh, I'm this," and I would be acting this kind of way, or the way they use their religion to justify like their actions and how they did or didn't like other people.
Okay, so you said that you started your journey in elementary school and it went through high school and through college as well. Congratulations. I know that you graduated college last December. So congratulations on that. What was your major?
Journalism.
Okay, all right. So journalism, which also plays a part in that because that requires doing research and things like that, correct?
Yes, and I know some like journalists, they try to stay indifferent to that kind of stuff anyway, because if they have a certain set mindset that's like, oh, I'm Christian or I'm this or I'm that, it'll change the way they want to tell the story instead of just wanting to get the story out. So that's kind of why I'm just like, it's just better all around for me to just stay neutral about everything.
Okay, so you chose to be more of a secular journalist? Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right, okay. So since we are talking about your experience in college, you said that you were in the South. How was that being on a college campus and being like in the Bible Belt of the United States? You being a non in college, how was that experience?
Um, personally, for me, it wasn't really a bad experience. It was just more of a, I just went about my day, and whoever asked about it, which there wasn't really many people that asked about it, I would just tell them, oh, I'm just doing research, or oh, I'm just looking into things to see what's the best for me. And there were some people that would be considered like evangelists or like hardcore Christians that would come onto campus like every month or like every other month, and then they would just like shove pamphlets in people's faces and shove like small pocket-sized Bibles in people's faces.
Oh my
And
goodness. So
I'm
they
just,
just shoved it in your
yeah,
face, huh?
like literally, I would be walking from the cafeteria area to my class, and then they would just be like, "Here, take this." I'm like, "No, thank you." It's like that's not really a
If
way to get
anything, they should
people.
be asking you, do you want this instead of just here?
Exactly. or it would just be people with signs up that's like, oh, God hates LGBTQ or something, or abortion is not right or something like that. I'm like, you can't just force that kind of stuff on people. People need to like research that stuff themselves, see what their view is, and also like you just because somebody likes somebody that's the same like sexuality or gender or whatever, that doesn't mean they need to get hated for that. Like there's no reason they just like who they like. Like there's no hate for that at all. There shouldn't be. And now in the year that it's in, it seems like it's getting a little worse, but it just shouldn't be that way.
So you said people were coming out there with picket signs and things like that. Were they people from outside the college or was it students?
No, they were from outside the college. They didn't say like which churches or stuff they were from, but they were just outside the college, didn't go there, didn't like have any affiliation with them. And we tried to talk to like the who was it, the principal of the college and the couple of other people that were around, and they were like, well, this is an open campus and there is freedom of speech, so they're allowed to be here. It's not like a private institution. And it just annoyed me because like I was just trying to go to class and stuff, and all these papers and books and signs are everywhere, and I'm just like, that doesn't make sense.
Right, because even though they had freedom of speech, you had a right yourself to have someone not be in your personal space.
Exactly. And then they would say things that they know would get people mad, and then they'd be like, see, this is why you need to come over here, and this is why this is the way that it is. It's like people are getting mad because you're saying the wrong things that doesn't make sense.
Exactly, judgmental.
Exactly. They're being judgmental for no reason, just because they were, taught that way. And I thought that if you were a Christian or whatever, that you were taught to love everybody, but they're not like showing that. And that's kind of why I'm just a, non-believer in any of this.
It's almost as if they have a small print. Like they read the Bible and they say, yeah, you're supposed to love everyone. And then the small print is unless they're gay, unless they're, transgender, unless they're a different culture, unless they're a different race. You know what I'm saying? There's a small print there.
Exactly. And also I've seen that religion kind of has a part to play in like politics too, which
Unfortunately.
it's because I know there's supposed to be like difference between like the church and state and stuff and what they show in schools and everything. It's not supposed to just be based on a religion because this country isn't a one religion type of country. So they're just shoving it everywhere, and that's not how it's supposed to be.
Okay, so going back to you being in the South or the Bible Belt, is it pretty lonely being a non-believer there? Or do you have like a group or a community that you could bond with? And the second part of the question is it any more stress being a Black non-believer? So that's a two-part question.
The first part is as of with being lonely with the community, not really, because I know there are people out there. I just need to like find different ways to connect with them, like on social media or like the meetup app. And the second part, yeah, kind of, because I know that me being a Black woman in the community, there's a bunch of like still church mindset in Black culture, and it's just I don't understand why, because it did nothing for us as a people. So I just feel like I shouldn't even be involved.
Okay, that's a very interesting aspect that you said there. You said being Black in the South, and they have more of a church mentality. Why do you think that is?
Oh, well, it's just how they were. I feel like it was just because of how they were raised. Like their grandparents went to church, and their parents are going to church, and
Hmm.
they have to go, and then they bring their kids when they go. So the kids are gonna grow up going to church, and it's just a big thing. Like people go as families, people go like 2 or 3 times a week, and it's just. And then the time that they're spending there, like what are they getting out of that time? And people that they go to church with, they even are completely different, like when they're outside the church house. So it's like
Okay,
people
so you
that
think they're
go,
being fake to be in church?
well, yeah, I just think it's a way for them to like justify their action because they can act some way like Monday through Saturday, and then Sunday they'll go and like repent of whatever they done through the week, and then they'll go do it again.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So, as you being a non now that you've graduated from college, are you getting any pushback from family or friends or anything? Do you think it's easier to be a non now that you're out of college and out of that pushy environment? What are your thoughts?
And I feel like it's easier because a lot of people that are my age and maybe younger and a little bit older, they're starting to realize that they don't need religion, and most people just don't bring it up anyway, so it's kind of easier. And a lot of us are kind of too busy to, be involved in that kind of stuff anyway. Like I know people will find time to go, but we're just trying to live life, and it doesn't really affect the way we live anymore for most of us.
Okay, so that's another interesting point you made. Do you think that there are more non-believers or people pulling away from the religion based on generation? Because I'm more of Gen X. Uh, what is your generation? Is it millennial?
Yeah, I feel like we'd be considered millennials.
So do you
Yeah.
think it's a generation thing?
Yeah, I can see how it is a generation thing, and I believe it is because the younger ones aren't really going to church as much, or like don't have a particular religion, or they'll just claim it because their parents have it and they don't really like, actually act on it and, do the things that they're supposed to do with it.
So when it comes to millennials and Gen Z, since they're the younger ones, what do you think makes them fall away from religion? Is it the pushiness? Is it the judgment? All of the above? What are your views?
Mm, I feel like it's the pushiness for one, and then for other people, it's they're getting away from their religion because they're like, some people are, coming out as like LGBT and trans and part of that community, and they know that community won't, the religious community won't accept them for that, or like their parents won't accept them for that, so they just try to stay away from that. And as soon as they like come out and they get pushed away from that, and that hurts. So that's probably another reason why a lot of people aren't into that anymore.
Okay, so what do you do when it comes to people who say, well, maybe you just suffered something as a child, or maybe you just didn't find the right religion. If you come to my church, then my pastor is different, and maybe you just need to believe in God, and then He'll show Himself to you. How do you feel when people come to you like that?
Mm, it's just another form of pushiness, and it's kind of more annoying than actually, helping. It's more annoying because they're just like shoving everything in their face, and again, like they're probably not even listening to half the stuff that's in the book that they're given to read. So It's like, why do I, and what makes theirs so different than others? That's something they never say. They just like, oh, it's just different. And my only question is, what makes it different? Like, how is it different? Because you're all
Okay.
pretty much reading the same thing, and you all pretty much have the same people telling you the same thing. So how is it different?
Right, right, right. Okay. So, I have a scenario here. It's something that happened to me, but I just want to see how you, if it was presented to you. Have you ever heard of it before? If you have, what would you say to it? So, what are your views when people come to you and say, "Wow, how do you have morals? Where do you get your morals from if you don't believe in the Bible?"
I just tell them it's the way I was raised. Like my parents told me, like, don't be mean to people because of their skin or their skin color or like what they like or don't like or who they like and don't like. It's just basic common sense. Like, don't, you know, hurt anybody because they think different than you. Don't like take steal stuff from stores. Don't cheat on people because that's just the you just got to be a decent person, and none of that makes you a decent person.
That's a good quote, to just be a decent human being. That's awesome. I like that. Um, so what about when people come up to you and you said, on you had this experience on the college campus. I don't know if you've had it since you've been out of college, but what about when they say, "Oh, well, don't you want to go to heaven or you're going to go to hell because you don't believe?" How does that hit you?
Mm. It's just kind of like I just tell them it's like what hell are you talking about? Because I know different religions have different forms of it, and this one might not. You might not go to this one, but you might go to another one, and it just doesn't even make sense because how do we even know that there is one to go to? And it's just a way to control people and control them to like act this way, and there's who even knows if there is one or isn't one.
Okay, yeah, that's a good aspect of it because when they talk about, oh, you're going to hell, and then you say, well, which hell are you talking about? Depending on which country you're from. And like, it's another hell. So if they're not, worried about going to another religion's hell, why would you be worried about going to their hell? N-
Exactly, and it's like they can't like prove that there is or isn't one. They're just like, oh, it is. It's like, well, how do you know? It's in a book. So where'd you get it? Oh, and then they just don't say nothing else.
Okay. So going back to your college days, and I know I shouldn't be doing that because you've already graduated, but when you were in college, were you able to converse with different people who had different religions? Were you able to study different religions? How was that?
Oh, I studied in a like there was a couple of classes that I took or religious classes, but
Okay,
after
how was
like
that?
it was it was kind of like eye opening because I didn't realize that a lot of other countries had pretty much the same mindset. That's like if you are a good person, then you're gonna go to a good place, and if you're a bad person, you're gonna go to a bad place, or like something like karma or something will happen. And I just didn't realize a lot of other countries, you know, were taught that or came up with that. And the classes, they didn't really get like uh, argumentative or aggressive or anything. So that was the main thing I was kind of concerned about.
Okay. Um, so what if you have someone who says, "Well, see, if other countries have different versions, then it must be true." Or do you think it's other countries' ways of keeping people in line?
Yeah, it's pretty much other countries' ways of keeping people in line too, because like they have different religions, they have like different levels of politics as well. They have like dictatorships or kind of they still have like presidents and supreme people that control people, and then they use books and stuff, and they use sayings, and that's just the way to control them. And also, when other countries were invaded, they brought that religion onto them as well. So that might not even been their religion. They just, when a country was like invaded and founded, they adapted it.
Okay. All right. That was interesting right there. So, I have another question. Since you're out of school, how do you incorporate the non-belief into your everyday life now? Do you have groups that you attend or anything?
Um, well, since I'm out now, I have a little bit more time that I can look into groups and stuff and see if there's any meetups. And I also, I know there's a couple of, books and other podcasts to listen to, and I'll look on your website.
Uh, yeah, just for the people at home, I do have a resources website on the secularminority.com, and it has a list of websites, books, and other outlets if you had any questions or needed help. Maybe you find yourself trapped or questioning, you can reach out to some of these organizations. Do you belong to any organization, or do you plan on, well, not belonging to an organization or anything, because it's not mandatory, but do you have a way to fellowship with other people?
Um, I know there's different groups on like social media, and I know there's I don't know if I mentioned it before, but like the Meetup app, I know they do a lot of secular, uh, helping with the community, and
Yeah,
I
I
can
like the
just
Meetup app too.
yeah, and that's pretty much all I've gotten into at the moment, but I plan to do more.
Okay, all right. So here's something I'm gonna put out there to you. If you could go back to, going back to high school or college, what kind of things would you tell to someone else who's younger or your age now? What kind of things would you pass on to them if they're having problems dealing with religion or pushy Christian friends or family? Is there anything that you wish somebody could have told you that maybe you could pass it on to them?
And well, mostly I'll just say do your own research, and if you decide to go that route, then that's what you decided to do. But don't let people decide for you, and don't let the environment decide for you. And it's okay to be, in another category or in not in a category at all. Like it's just okay to not follow other people just because it's popular.
Okay, so if it's a younger person and they tell you they're struggling with different things, like maybe not so much as their identities or things like that, but just the pressure that they're getting from being in any type of religion. It doesn't have to be Christian, but being in a religion, from your aspect of being a non, what kind of things would you tell them to help them to uh, get through life? Because some people, they feel like, well, if I don't have a God, then what's the purpose of living? What would you, what kind of message would you give to them?
Um, I would just say life in general is, it's not based off of a religion, and you should just live your life the way you want to, because if you don't, then you're not going to be happy in your life. And just because you're in a religion that won't allow something, or you want to leave your religion because they won't allow it. Just do what makes you happy, and that will be the best life if you're happy with what you're doing and not, listening to other people or following other people.
Okay, all right. I like that advice. Um, so we've come to the end of our episode here. And just, one more time, could you let everybody know where to find you? What kind of links do you still do your photography? Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm on TikTok. It's Sunrayzz, and my Instagram and Facebook are on and off, and those are Sunrayzz as well. And I do Twitter, and I do YouTube, of course, Sunrayzz section, and that's pretty much that's pretty much where you can find
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Sunrays.
me.
And we've come to the end of this episode. And if you're not listening to this on the website, make sure you check out the website, secularminority.com. Like I mentioned earlier, you're going to find resources, show notes, links to this show, links to Sunray's section, her YouTube channel where she does awesome reaction videos. Sunny Secular, can be found on Twitter, TikTok, and Pinterest. And until next time, everyone, say it with me. I'm special, I'm smart, and I matter. Peace and happiness, everyone.
Thank you for having me.